Sam Bankman-Fried's two most trusted agents, Alameda's Caroline Ellison and FTX's Gary Wang, plead guilty to the Department of Justice fraud charges, and they also settle with the SEC. Former Alameda Research CEO Caroline Ellison and FTX co-founder Gary Wang pleaded guilty to charges tied to FTX's collapse, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams announced on Wednesday night. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was charged with 8 crimes by the Southern District of New York earlier this month after he was arrested in Nassau, Bahamas. The charges include money laundering, wire fraud, securities fraud, and campaign finance violations. He is being extradited to the United States. Williams confirmed in his statement saying that the FTX founder was in FBI custody and would appear in court as soon as possible. So, of these charges that Caroline Capital and Gary Wang pleaded to, how bad is that really? Well, obviously a spokesman of Mr. Bankman-Fried declined to comment. However, he refuses to shut his mouth in any interview that comes up. So while the guilty pleas of Ms. Ellison and Mr. Wang appear to be sealed under court orders, their plea agreements were released by prosecutors on Wednesday night. Ms. Ellison pleaded guilty to 7 counts, 2 counts of wire fraud, and 5 conspiracy counts involving wire, securities, and commodities fraud and money laundering. Mr. Wang pleaded guilty to wire fraud and 3 conspiracy counts which involved wire, securities, and commodities fraud. So, what does this all amount to on all these different counts? Well, the worst case scenario for Caroline Ellison, the former CEO of Alameda Research, they could carry up to 110 years in prison after striking a plea deal with the Justice Department. However, it's important to note here that it's not likely that she will serve anywhere near the statutory maximum for the charges because she did enter a plea agreement and she's likely going to comply with the prosecutors of the Southern District of New York. So where is Sam Bankman-Fried in all this? Well, as of late last night, Sam Bankman-Fried flew from the Bahamas via a private airport to New York. He was expected to arrive Wednesday night and was confirmed to have arrived. However, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was released to his parents on a $250 million bail. A U.S. judge said that the 30-year-old former billionaire could be released to his parents on a $250 million bond. He did not admit or deny guilt. However, as he started to go on a little bit of a tirade, he said, "I didn't knowingly commit fraud. I don't think I committed fraud. I didn't want any of this to happen. I was certainly not nearly as competent as I thought I was," he told BBC shortly before his 12 December arrest in the Bahamas where he lived. Part of this $250 million bond is the Palo Alto residence of Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, so hopefully he doesn't just flee the country. SBF's legal battle still has a lot to play out, guys, and we're going to be covering it on this channel. Sam Bankman-Fried faces 8 accusations that could get him up to 115 years in jail, but a final sentence could take months or even years. However, for those of you that remember the Enron case or even lived through it, Enron declared bankruptcy on December 2nd, 2001. However, it took all the way until May 25th, 2006 for the jury to convict Skilling of 19 of the 28 counts of wire fraud. So as you can see, it could be multiple years before we see a final criminal trial and conviction for Sam Bankman-Fried. But stay tuned because we're going to try to cover as much as this juicy content as possible on this channel. And now, today, Thursday, December 22nd, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is going to make his first New York City court appearance over the crypto fraud charges in the Southern District of New York. So let's hear from a former attorney for the Southern District of New York and see what his take is on the SBF trials.
Thank you for being with us here today. I want to ask you about Ellison and Wang and their potential involvement with the prosecution. Anything you can glean at this very early stage that they may have been able to share with authorities that may have helped the case against SBF here?
Oh, I think they are the primary witnesses that led to the indictment here of Bankman-Fried. I mean, they are both insiders. Ellison was the person that was handling the customer money at FTX, and Wang was the person who created the program that allowed them to move money around illegally. So you've got people who are actually living with Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas. They started the company with him, basically, and they really know where all the bodies are buried. They know who's involved. They know who did what, and really are in a position to name names of others who might be involved. And it wouldn't surprise me, and we talked, I think, on the show the last time about whether or not Bankman-Fried's parents might be criminally liable. And certainly they would be in a position to know that, as well as other people who were in the company that might be criminally involved.
Nick, does the speed at which this has all taken place imply that this cooperation deal has been in the works for quite some time? And what's your expectation as far as a plea from Sam Bankman-Fried?
Well, I think, first of all, yes. I mean, this deal with these two cooperating witnesses didn't happen overnight, but it was pretty quick. I mean, it wasn't as though, a lot of time has gone by on this since all of this has hit the papers and everybody knew about what was going on in the bankruptcy court. So it's apparent that the authorities acted extremely quickly here. They went right to the people that were just below Bankman-Fried, the people that really would be able to basically give him up, and they made deals with him. They each of them essentially admitted to a series of crimes, the same thing that Bankman-Fried has been charged with. And they're hoping that through their cooperation, that will mitigate to a great extent their sentence, which means it's not only testifying in the grand jury and providing information, but it also means testifying at a possible trial, which brings us to what is Bankman-Fried going to do. It seems to me, knowing that his two cohorts have pleaded guilty, it's going to be very tough, if not impossible, for him to go to trial on these charges. It seems to me that when you have two insiders that were that close to him, basically laying out the scheme, it is almost virtually impossible to ever think that he could be acquitted by a jury. And that if I were his lawyer, I would basically advise him to cut his losses, take a plea, and make the best possible deal he could so that at least he goes before the court showing some remorse, showing that he's basically taken responsibility for what he did, all of which are mitigating factors that could be used ultimately in the sentence that he receives.
And if you like this channel, smash that like button, comment below, and subscribe to see more content like this in the future. Thanks, and I'll see you around.